Okay, we should be live now. Let's just test everything. Testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I can hear the stream. I think the mic volume's a bit low, so I might switch to a different mic. Let's go live. Okay, we should be live now. Is there anybody there? Can you hear me? Hello, chat room. Yeah, I can see. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I think you can hear me now. Okay, so let's make a start. So, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the live stream of this session on using samples with the Korg Wavestate and Modwave. And a few people asked me about this, so I thought I'd do a session on this. So what we're going to look at doing in this session is how you can import WAV files into Sample Builder and then get them across to your Modwave or Wavestate. For this demo, I'm going to be using the Modwave native, but this could also be done Wavestate native or the hardware ones. I have got the hardware ones here, but just for the sake of capturing the audio, I'm using the native versions as well. Let me know if the mic volume's a bit low. It seemed a bit low when I was testing this, but hopefully you can hear me okay. So I've got the software's open now, and what the plan is I'm going to do is going to get some wave files, and I'm going to try and bring those into the Modwave and show you the various tools we've got in here. For example, this sound I've got here, that is a Roland D110 file, and that is a sample that I did recorded from the D110, which is over there behind me. I sampled it and then I brought it into the Modwave using the sample builder. So to do this, you're going to need the sample builder tool, which you can get from Korg, and there's a few steps to bringing this over. So the first thing you're going to want to do, first thing I'll explain, is the concept of the way that samples are managed on the Modwave and Wavestate. They're identical on both. So you have user sample banks, which use the sample builder to send down to your synth. Now, the way that you do that, this is sample builder, and let me go right from the beginning. So I'll fire up sample builder. So when you open sample builder, there's nothing there, and you have a bank. That bank of samples, so I can open a bank, and I've got one called ID samples. You open that, and these are all the samples in my bank. And what will happen here is that they will now be, when I go to the device, I can select my Modwave. I can then send that bank to the Modwave, and that compiles the samples, trims out the unnecessary spaces and bits and pieces like that, and sends it down as a compiled bank to the synth. Now, if I already had a load of samples, user samples in my Modwave, and I hit the send bank, that would remove the samples that are already in there. Hello to the guys in the chat room. So this is the number one thing that I've been asked about on the Modwave. So what would happen is, if I had my own bank in there, which I do, this ID one, and then I opened a different bank, so say my Fairlight bank, which is just Fairlight one. If I sent that down, that would remove all the other samples and just have the Fairlight ones in there. So it's really important that you remember that part, that every time you hit send bank, it's not adding to what's in the Modwave or the Wavestate, it's replacing what's in there. So bearing that in mind, what I do is I have one master bank, which is this one, and then if I want to add a multi-sample to it, then you can do add a multi-sample. You can browse for the multi-sample and add that to your collection there. So if you download a sample bank from me, say my Fairlight Volume 1, what you should do is have your own bank and then bring my Fairlight samples into your bank and send that down. So then if you get my D110 bank, you can open my D110 files and send that as well as the Fairlight in. So have one master bank and import them in each time. So that is the best way of doing it. So you have a master bank and you add those multi-samples in. So exactly as you just seen. So let's say I take this recorder one out, and I want, this is my master bank, and I want to add a multi-sample. Here's the recorder one from the D110 collection. That adds it in. When I do send bank, that will go down to the synth, erasing everything that's in there. But because I've got a master bank, I won't lose anything. The only issues with that is you can see I'm up to a little bit of storage space issues. That's because each of these zones takes up a RAM sample. So the more zones you have, so say this one has got a lot in there, that takes more RAM. So that's the first thing to bear in mind. Right, so now let's go for a new sample. We're going to make a new sound in there. So go to the multi-sample. So we've got an empty multi-sample. Question from the chat room. This works with all Korg VST versions. Yeah, all Modwave and Wavestate natives. It works fine with that. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start off with an empty sample. And what you need to do is find the wave files. So there's a few different ways you can do this. If you've got File Explorer open, which I have, there we go, get File Explorer, you need to find the audio files. So there's a few different places I've got these stored. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to deal with single wave files and multi-wave files. So we'll go with the single one first. So I was sent some of these Oberheim ones. So we're going to pick one of these Oberheim ones at random. I'm going to bring that, drag that in over there. And that's brought that in now there. So you can hear that sample in there. That doesn't look like a good example. So I'm going to delete that one and let's bring another one in. That sounds better. Now you can use the keyboard, as you can see in there, or you can use it via MIDI. I've got the key stage controlling that. So these samples are really short by the looks of it, and you can decide what the original key is and what key range. So let's say these, it tries to guess it from the metadata. So I don't know whether these have got the metadata, and they haven't, I don't think, picked it up. So let's just say that it's C2 is the center note. That's probably be about right. Maybe C, they were sampled on C3. So that could be right. So we'll stick with that one. I'll show you a much better example in a second, but I wanted to get a really basic one. So we've got, so that's brought that in. You've got the option of fixed pitch, which I'll show you when we do drum machines. You can set the key range. This is a single sample, but I'm going to show you multi-samples in a minute, which is much more useful. You can set the level, and this is in one-shot mode, which is actually designed for like a drum hit. So take it out of one-shot mode, and then you've got 3 bars that you can adjust on here. So you've got these 3 bars. So the first one is the start point. So this is fairly clean. You can zoom in here. You can see that it starts at the right point. So, but sometimes they can have a bit of a gap at the beginning, so you can adjust that. And then we've got now the loop points. So this is where you want it to loop, and this is where it gets complicated. On time consuming now is setting this bit up. So you can hear it clicking a bit there as it's looping round. So what I do to avoid that, I usually do it by eye, is just try and get it so it doesn't jump from a low point to a high point. And I always zoom in on the wave and say get this crossing point like that one, and same for this one, get this at a crossing point. So same crossing point. Okay, that's not too bad. So we're going really basic with this one. Normally I would have multi-zone ones. So we can give it a name. So we call it Oberheim OB8, and we'll call it string, and you can give yourself a name in there, and you give it a category. Categories are quite important so you can find them, and you can put any notes in there as well. So you save that, and that creates it as that multi-sample, which is what you saw me importing before. So at this point, it's a good idea to have your folders structured, although there's a tool to help you do that. So I'm just going to call this, let's create a folder for this, Oberheim, save that. So that's saved that one. But if I go in here now, you'll see if I go down to Oberheim, there it is. So when I click send bank, that will go to the synth. For the native, there's a slightly different version to it, but I'll show you that in a second. So that's a basic one. Let's show you a more complex one with multi-zones in it. I'll do a new multi-sample and find my audio files. And when I did the D110, I did split these up into different zones. So here we go. So fantasy, see, when I sampled it, I used the Akai MPC software to do the sample. I created C2, E2, A flat 2, C3, and so on. So I created a separate one, but I'll bring these in manually for now. So bring in C2. It tries to detect it from the metadata, but I know it was C2 and it's actually guessed it as C3. So I'm going to change that to C2. I'm also going to bring in the other one as well, which was C3. So I'll change that to C3. And then it's mapped them, you can see there. It's mapped them on those different, so it's going to use sample 1 up to that point and then sample 2 there, but actually I'm going to split it exactly on that C mark there. So that split that. But they have their own loop points when you do that. So the more zones you have, the more times you've got to create the loop points. Now, so first of all, you can see with this one, there was a bit of a gap at the beginning, so I can tighten that up. So I can just drag that around. And the same for the other one as well, so I can drag that around. You have got the option of adjusting the levels here at this stage. You can lock them so the left and right are always locked. But if you decide that the lower one's too high or whatever, you can adjust that. And you can do a bit of tuning as well. When I did the Fairlight collection, they were all different tunings, so I had to do it by ear and just tune them to the right one. So basically what I did was I got a piano sound and one key and just hit that until it tuned and sounded good to me. So now this looping point, let's have a look. This is going to be quite a tricky one. I can see straight away, really. So let's try it there. I should be on the right sample, so click the right sample. So maybe we'll loop it on this tail bit here. Not perfect. Well, let's try it. So let's try and get the waveforms. So I'll put it on the rise of that sawtooth. You really want the volumes to be matched as well, which they're probably quite close at this stage. Let's. Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? You can hear it. You can hear it looping. The more time you get, the less you hear the loops. But then this sound is constantly evolving, so this one won't loop very well anyway. Perhaps I'll show you one that I have looped. But anyway, that's an example of one that with two samples in there. I can also show you one with a few more on here. So the ones we've got, some organs are quite good for looping. That's the audio files. We go there in here. So there's that recorder one. Right, so there's recording one you can see. It's a bit easier to loop this one because you can see the volume is fairly static on there. I can hear a volume difference though. So these could do with boosting a bit, so I can boost that. So that's quite, that one is already looped. Now you can see, so I've got these different sample ranges that I imported in. Like I said, it does try and detect, you've got in the preferences there, you can see if I go to settings, you can get it to use the file name instead of the embedded audio metadata for the original key. So if it says C4 in it like this does, then you should tick that. If it doesn't, then you can use the metadata. Great, Shane, that'll be good. I'll try and play with them, so those Mellotron ones. So that's these ones. Now I wanted to show one that's a bit more complex, and let me show. In fact, before we go on to a more complex one, let's look at one that the Fairlight one. So this is a one-shot one. So a one-shot is not looped, so you just click the one-shot, and they're much easier to manage those ones. You might recognize this one. So you can see I've set the loop point there. So I've got the initial hit and then I've done the loop point. And yeah, you can see I've done the tuning because it wasn't quite correct when I brought those in. Now if I go back to let's have a look at something like a drum. Now there's a set in here called full kit. This is a bit more complicated. So here you can see there's 49 zones on this one. That's because I've got each key being a note, just as you would on the keyboard. So what I did is I sampled each of the D D110, and then I sampled each of the D110 drums, and then got those wave files and dragged them onto each note, set the original key, and set them like that. So that's all the drums are on there. And I could have set this fixed pitch, no, I didn't actually. You could set them as fixed pitch as well, because it doesn't matter where you chromatically play them on the keyboard if they're drum sounds. So we can have a quick listen to the ones that we've done. We did the Oberheim one, didn't we? I can't send that separately. I've got to send the whole thing. So to send to the synth is just send bank. To send to the native version, then you do save bank for plugin, and I've already got a name for it. Overwrite the existing one, and that's going to send it down. So it prepares it, it compiles it, and then it will push it to the synth. And I'll show you how to manage those as well if you're going to be distributing it to other people. Rafa, I've got a ton of free patches. If you go on the digital-lifestyle.com, go to Music Tech Downloads, there's loads of Wavestate patches. I've got just a recently launched one this week, which is analog strings. But I've got D110, I've got Fairlight, and others. So this failed because the Modwave was open. If I do that again with the Modwave shut, that'll send that over. We'll have a test of that in a minute. So now I'll show you now how you deal with that over on the Wavestate or the Modwave side of things. It's exactly the same on the Modwave and the Wavestate. So once this is transferred over, I'll import or we'll go and have a look in the synth where they are. So this is just finishing off. Okay, so I can fire up the Modwave. Right, so if I go to initial performance, I'm controlling the Modwave native from my actual Modwave over there. Drop oscillator 1, oscillator 2 down, change the sample, go through this list. If you go to my ID samples, because that was the name of my bank, here you can see all those, but I should find that Oberheim string. There we go. So, with it being a single sample, it sounds a bit strange when you get high up. You really need probably 4 zones, I think, or at least 2 at a minimum to do it correctly. But I can add some life into this now. If I go to the effects section, there's a compression, bring some nice chorus, let's have a bit of stereo delay. And we can see reverb on it as well. And let's give it a bit. And of course, we've got the envelopes then to play with. Quite often the samples don't need a lot of work to do with them because they've already got the shaping and everything else. With that one, it does. So I go back to my layer, and I'm going to bring in, let's just get a bit of attack release time. You can make it even richer. By doubling it and setting a bit of tuning. Maybe an octave. there we go, we've built that patch in with it now. If I have a look at some of the other ones, I think it was the Fantasia one we were looking at, was Fantasy. So you can hear those zones. So the more zones you have, the less you hear the zone switching, but the more samples there are and the more memory it's going to take, and the more time it's going to take for you to go through and set the looping points. If I show you the, if we have a look at one of the Fairlight ones, it was in volume 1, we had the SAR sound. So there's that sound that I pulled out from the Fairlight collection. Yeah, thanks, Shane. Yeah, you're right. The more sections you have, the more realistic you'll get the sample sounding. So I think you sent me something through, so I'll definitely check it out and make something of those. The other one I mentioned on the D110 was that full kit one. There's each key has got its own drum sound on it. So while you're working with your samples like that, you've got them in. There are a few things you can do to tweak them as well. So let's have a look. Let me we'll create a new sample, and we'll we'll have a go at bringing one in. I'm going to bring another Fairlight one in, and I'll show you how we can tweak. Okay, actually, I'm going to change mine because I can't remember where I put the sounds on that one. So here we are. We've got some real string cellos, a full string section. So we're going to have a look at these cellos. We've got C2 and C3 for this one. So let's have a look. So we're going to bring that one in. C1, and we'll bring it in. Bring C2 in. We've got 2 zones now, and I think there's a C3, 3 zones. So now we need to get these correct. In fact, what I should have done is I'll check that option to use the file name, because the file names look right on this one. So we'll do that cello ORD, cello ORD C2, cello ORD C3. So we've got 3. And actually, when you look at that, that one looks correct. That one says C7 and that one says E8, so it's not correct. So we know the first sample is C1, so I'll set it as C1. The second sample was C2, and the third one was C3, and now I just do the split points. So first one, I'm going up to C2, second one down to C3, and then the C3 one I'm just going to leave to do the rest of the range. So, but if it was out of tune, you can adjust it. And the Fairlight ones were out of tune, so I can just adjust that, but I'll leave that at 0. And you can adjust the rate of the looping as well. So let's go back to which one? This, the higher one. So you can hear that looping. You can adjust the tuning of the looping. So you can hear it's a bit dramatic there, but you can adjust it so you can make the looping a bit faster or a bit slower depending on the tuning you want. Okay, so that one's a good example. So I've got those in there, that's all fine, and then I could send that down. Now, if you're preparing these banks, if I go back to my banks now, let's say you want to transfer these to another synth, or you want to send them to someone else. So what I generally do for that one is I go away from using my own bank, because I only want to compile the ones I'm uploading to my website. So I might do a new bank, and I've just been working on the D110 Volume 3. Volume 2 is out, I think, next week and the week after. I've just finished Volume 3 actually. So that I've got them in my bank, but what I need is to create a new bank. So I'm going to call it, the name will be D110. Okay, so save my D110, I'll save it there. So I've created a bank. If I sent this bank down, it doesn't do anything in it, but if I had some samples to set this down, don't forget it will wipe everything else. But that's okay, because I can open at the ID one and send that down anyway. Right, so now I can add my multi-samples. And my multi-samples are all here. So volume 3 starts with Sawteeth. So I'll go and add that one in. Then I'm just going to do a few. Then the next one was Sax 1. And then you can multi-select these if you want, but I'll add Sax 2 and so on. So this is now building up that bank. If I sent that down, it would do just those ones down to the synth. But let's say, right, I've added all the ones in there, and now I want to prepare it to give it to you guys, or you want to get it so you can transfer it to someone else. So what you do consolidate bank files, give it a folder. This is where you've got to be careful with your folders. So I'm going to call this D110 Vol 3. Make sure I use that one. Okay, so if I go and have a look what it's done, you can see here it's created the main bank file, and then it's created the 3 sounds that I've got in that bank, and in there it's put the WAV files it needs. You need to do that because the WAV files could be all over. It could be on your C drive, it could be on your D drive, it could be, you know, in my documents or wherever. So the files could be anywhere. Now it'll work on your machine because it knows where the files are. But then when you gave that to another person, you know, as a zip file or whatever, it needs to know where all those files are. So this makes a duplicate of those and puts them in this structured folder. So then what you can do then is just zip that folder up, and that's what I would then upload to the website. So you've got to do that as well. So there's 3 aspects. There's building it in Sample Builder with the WAV files. There's managing your banks and transferring them to your synth. And then there's this separate thing which is for sending them through to your different of making them available for distributing them. So let me show you what will happen if I send this bank down to the synth. So I'll do it to the virtual one. So I'll just close the Modwave and let me save bank for plugin. So I'm going to call this D110 volume 3. That's fine. See, it's going to be a lot quicker this time because it's there's only a few samples in it. Go to my Modwave. Now, if I go to my volume 3 files, and we know we've got sax 2. Sax 2 should be there. Now, what happens if we go to soft brass, which is not on this list? No, it's kept it for some reason. But normally what happens is that will come up as a missing sample. Let's go to my Fairlight ones. See if it's kept them. Yeah, it has actually for some reason. I think maybe on the, when you do it on the Modwave as opposed to the native one. Ah, I tell you what, yes, there is a difference. I forgot. On the native versions, you just point it to a folder. So my ID bank and the Fairlight bank and all those were in that folder. So I haven't lost any samples. If I push this to the Modwave or the Wavestate, the hardware ones, they would disappear. They others would disappear, and there would just be those 3 that are in there. It works slightly different on the native ones. You get a little exclamation mark up here to show that the sample's missing. So just bear that in mind, that how to manage your banks. So my next job would be to continue adding all those bank 3 so that I can, volume 3 for the D110 collection, and then I can get that back. But of course, what I can do, I've still got my master bank, which is in my sample builder folder. So all those are in there. So that's it really. That's the whole process of working with samples on the Modwave and the Wavestate. Let me just flick over to the Wavestate. Well, not the Wavestation, the Wavestate. We'll get the Wavestate native up. I'll just check that my streamer is showing that one. I don't think I captured that one, we'll just add that source. Wavestate native, there we go. So the Wavestate, it works exactly the same. You can get the advantage with the Wavestate is you can combine multi-samples, and I've got some of those in here somewhere. In fact, let's import those in, because I did create a patch bank for that. I can't see that one actually. But I did create one. So you can have multi-samples on the Wavestate. So I could, there you can see I've got a single. If I take it to a wave sequence, and there's a wave sequence, and now I could choose those samples. So there's all my D110, so I could have electric bass, and let me close the Modwave one so it's not hear that. And then I could have it play the sweep, and then I could get it to play a vibe, and then get it to play that one. And let's just get that control from Modwave. So you can hear that that patch. Now I have got a more complicated one, so I'm just going to export it from my Wavestate librarian. So I'm just exporting my D110 volume 2. Okay, so if I go back to here, I go to librarian, I can import my D110 volume 2. There we go. And in there, I did have one that's got some sequencing on it. There we go. Yeah, sorry about the volume of mic. I don't know why I can't get it balanced quite as well as I normally. I'm going to switch back to using the desktop mic for next time. But what I was just saying then is that is a wave sequence using all those separate synths, or those synths from the library. So that's how you can do it on the Wavestate. So that's the difference to the Wavestate and the Modwave. The Modwave is just put it as a waveform. With the Wavestate, you can have them in those wave sequences. Yeah, and it gives you some really interesting effects. I think I had another one which I've got on here. So some really interesting effects you can get using that as well. And you've got the drum sounds and everything else, so you can have it as fixed pitch, or you can have it as audio sequencing. So it's quite interesting on the Wavestate, but that's probably a topic for another video, is wave sequencing on the Wavestate. It's really powerful and really interesting, the things you can do with that. But as you've seen here, all those sounds I had on the Modwave, I've got on the Wavestate. I pushed the samples across. I still had to create these manually as well, so it was still a question of going to each multi-sample, finding the one, creating the patch. So even though there's two synths using the same engine, I still had to use that. But you do get some good ones like this. Turn the volume down a bit. So you do get some nice, interesting samples, but they're just straight from the D110. So that is my quick guide to using multi-samples on the Modwave and Wavestate. It all starts with the sample builder. So you manage it all through there. Then once you get to your synth, then you just treat it as a sample, which you can just as the built-in samples as well. The other thing to remember as well is when you're distributing the patches, if you're doing that, so I mentioned earlier that I upload the zip files, you also then have to distribute these files as well, the actual performances and things. So, but you can just select those and export those as a bundle. So when the files that I upload will be the sample builder files and the Modwave or the Wavestate files, depending on which set they are. So my next one's the D110 volume 2 is out, and I'm working on volume 3, and then I'm going to play around with some of the samples. Shane, you sent me some. I'm going to have a look at that. I've got some more Fairlight sounds to upload as well, so I will definitely get on and look at that as well. So, any questions, please leave them in the comments. Now we've got another 10 minutes before I have to finish. If you've got any suggestions for future videos, please let me know. I'm always looking for ideas for either the live streams or just the normal YouTube videos. We got to 10,000 subscribers, which I was really pleased with last month. So thanks to everybody that's subscribed. You can grab the sets from thedigital-lifestyle.com. All the sounds that I've been talking about are available on there. Plus the ones that aren't sample based. I've got a new analog strings one. I've got some digital ones coming for the Modwave. I've got a Genesis set coming for the Wavestate, and which includes some Mellotron type stuff as well. So I've got a lot of interesting sets coming, but I do like getting the feedback. So leave a comment or send me a message, and I'll try and come up with some more video topics. So thanks, Sean, for suggesting it. It was actually Sean that suggested this topic. I hope that makes it a little bit easier. You can play back this and have a go yourself. I will have a look at your samples that you sent me as well, so I'll put something together on that. Thanks for watching this video. I'll hang around for another 10 minutes or so. Anybody's got any comments or questions, I'll take those, and maybe I can demonstrate something while I'm here. But if not, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Oh, Kraftwerk ones, yeah. I might have a look at doing that. The Wavestate and the Modwave, well, been a similar architecture, very different ways. So with the Modwave, you're looking at oscillators, modifying the oscillators with LFOs, that kind of thing. Wavestate is all about samples. So they're really different ways of working. So whether I can recreate them, I'm not quite sure. I thought I'd struggle with the Genesis ones on the Wavestate, but actually I managed to get them working quite well. So it is a possibility. But when you see the way that the Modwave ones are put together for, say, the Kraftwerk, they are they're not really using samples. If I have a look at, say, Computer World, you can see. Let's just set the MIDI. You can see this usually. That's just using. Someone else has mentioned Boards of Canada. I have actually done a lo-fi set, not specific for that, but I did do kind of a lo-fi set a while ago. Whether I can see that on here. Yeah, I did do one, and it's on the website, so you can download those. But I'm going to listen to some of those examples that Boards of Canada. You're not the first person that's mentioned that to me, so I'll definitely check out that. Say, let's find something interesting from. So these sound like example. This sound that's making use of the wavetables, which is what I was using that for the like model. You can see that's one using a sawtooth for some resonance, but actually you can recreate that on the Wavestate because there is a sawtooth sample which you can use as a waveform. So I could probably recreate that one. Something like that on my machine. Possibly be able to do that as well, so I'll definitely have a look into that one. Yeah, Sean, you should look at a Modwave as well. They're complementary, I think, rather than duplicating, because they're very different in the way that they work, but complement each other quite well. Okay, so I'm going to stop the stream there. Thanks very much for everybody that joined. I really did like chatting with you on there as well. Please keep comments and suggestions coming in, and I'll see you on the next video.